best pro-Israel members of Congress is Mark Kirk. He's basically running against almost the extraordinary candidate that a national party would nominate. A guy whose family owned a bank, pulled $80 million out of the bank in the 2 years before it collapsed, costing the federal government $400 million. Many of the loans of that bank were made to the mob, plus Tony Resco. That was his bank of choice. It's extraordinary that this would be the candidate the Democrat establishment wanted. They actually had a very good candidate running against Alexei Giannoulis in the primary. He narrowly lost. And Kirk has made some mistakes. This should have been a relatively easy race to win, given his resume, his reputation, the fact that the newspapers like him. Everybody thinks he's a good government, centrist, moderate. And unfortunately, a lot of stuff for him was exposed right after it became clear that Blumenthal did not serve 3 tours of duty in Connecticut, in Vietnam. The guy running for senator in Connecticut. So the Kirk story broke right after that, and the newspapers had to jump in to show that they're equal opportunity going after everybody who fibs a little bit or embellishes. In Kirk's case, unlike someone who says they were in Vietnam and wasn't, in Kirk's case, it's like somebody coming home and telling them, oh, they got a 98 on a test when they got a 96. You ask yourself, why? Why would you do that? But he did. It's hurt him. It's kept the race closer than it might have been. But the last 3 polls have all been good for Kirk. He's ahead by between 2 and 4 points. Some of us say in Illinois you have to win by at least 2 or 3% given the margin of theft of the Cook County Democratic Party. The governor's race is also close in Illinois, and again there's a couple of House races. But given that this is a state, Obama's home state, Obama's seat, that 25-point victory in the presidential election, it's really remarkable that you've had that kind of turnaround. Nevada. This is a state that has gone back and forth between Sharon Angle and Harry Reid. They're also competing sort of on verbal faux pas. Neither one of them, I think, has distinguished themselves as far as impressing the public so far. This is going to be much more of a negative vote in Nevada than it is going to be a vote of enthusiasm for one candidate or the other. Angle beat the sharp Jerry Tarkanian's son in the primary. I'm not sure whether that was better or worse as a candidate. He probably would have gotten a run and rebel vote, though. This one is beginning to lean to Angle. They had one debate. Angle apparently did much better than Reid. Reid appeared a little sort of confused, which can happen when you've been in the Congress or Senate for 40 or 50 years. Yeah,
well, yeah, none of the above. That's a state that has...
It does have none of the above, and there are also 3 or 4 minor party candidates, including a fake Tea Party candidate. That's one of the things Democrats have done this year is they put on the ballot in some congressional districts and in some state races party names to run as 3rd or 4th parties that have Tea Party in them. But they're not conservative or Republican groups. They're full of Democrats. And in fact, the Democrats are the ones who have got the petitions to get him on the ballot. They've been advertising for him. They've been doing push polls where they call registered Republicans and say, you don't really want to vote for Sharon Angle, who's not a real conservative, when the real conservative is running on the Tea Party candidate, this party. I think most people who are going to vote are sort of tuned in enough, given $30 million has been spent in Nevada on the race. Everybody knows the major candidates. I'd say, again, this is about a 2/3 chance that Angle will win, but that's not a certainty. Illinois is maybe a little bit less than that, maybe 60 to 65% chances, according to Nate Silver, the 538 group. Then you got West Virginia, where, and this is truly remarkable, Silver does 100,000 simulations of every race, 100,000 simulations. As of this morning, his simulation on West Virginia was Joe Manchin, the Democrat, 49.79, John Race, the Republican, 49.78. This is what you call too close to call. And West Virginia is a very odd race because the governor is quite popular. This is a fairly conservative Democrat. He's pro-life, he's pro-gun, he's a fiscal discipline, and they really love him as governor. He's got about a 70% approval rating. However, Barack Obama has the lowest approval rating in any state in the country in West Virginia, 30%. So you got 2 70s competing with each other. And what the Republican campaign, John Race, has done is basically argue, John Manchin's done a great job as governor. Let's continue to keep him as governor. Let's not give Barack Obama another vote in the U.S. Senate. West Virginia is a state where there are twice as many registered Democrats as Republicans, but that's not how people vote. That's true of a lot of places in the South, Georgia, North Carolina. A lot of blue dogs, or actually people who traditionally vote conservative or Republican now, are still registered as Democrats. That has changed only very slightly over the years. So party registrations don't mean that much. Even some of the states, like North Carolina, reported that there were more registered Democrats than registered Republicans who had been in early voting. And the margin was like 52 to 48%. But in 2008, it was 3-to-1 Democrat. So that gives you some idea that a couple more Democrats voting, but they're not. Are they really Democrats? And chances are a fairly significant percentage of them are not. Very hard to call West Virginia. I used to spend half my life there, I thought, as a consultant, because no other firm wanted to really go into the state, travel around those roads. But in any case, this one's tough because the polls are not showing 1 point for one guy and 1 point for the other. They're widely divergent. There's one poll by Marshall University that has the Democrat up by 10. There's another poll by Rasmussen that has the Republican up by 7. And so when you get a race where the average is a direct tie, but fairly established pollsters are showing the numbers that divergent, is unusual this late in the race. So that's a tough one. I think it's probably a 50-50 race. Then you get to the two that are, I think, a tough hurdle for the Republicans. They win West Virginia, Illinois, Nevada, Colorado, Pennsylvania. They get 9 seats, which gets them to 50. All right, then Joe Biden comes in and casts the 51st vote. The Democrats retain control of the Senate. So Republicans, if they win those 9, have to win either Washington or California. These are both tough. California is just a very traditionally Democratic state, 26% margin for Obama. The white population of California is below 50% already. Hispanic population is about 35%, though their vote share is less than that. The governor's race was pretty much decided when this sort of scandal broke about Meg Whitman's hired help being illegal, her supposedly abusing her. She had been up a few points on Jerry Brown and is now 5, 6, 7 points behind. Oddly enough, as Whitman's numbers have gone down, Carly Fiorina's have gone up a little bit. It's as if voters in California may be willing to give one Republican woman a shot, but not both. Fiorina is now within 1 or 2 points in most surveys, but she consistently trails. The question is, some people say, if you're an incumbent and you're running under 50% this close to election day, and everybody already knows you, you have no movement to go up. The people who are for you are going to be for you. They already know you. So those 3, 4, 5% undecided, if a large share of them went for Carly Fiorina, she could win. I still think the odds are against it. If the Republicans win 9 seats and you're going to stay up late on November 2nd, of course you may be staying up for the base for the World Series. I don't know when they're supposed to end, but there have been series that have gone into November, and this one is almost certainly going to go into November unless you get a sweep. So that's one. The other one is Washington State, where Patty Murray is a couple points ahead of Dino Rossi, who's run twice statewide for governor, lost both times. The first time, I think, it's kind of a ballot box theft. He was ahead on all the recounts, and then they finally found one missing box in King County that gave the governor's race to the Republicans, sort of similar to landslide Lyndon in 1948, when Lyndon Johnson won his first Senate race by 87 votes. He was about 130 votes behind, and they found one box from San Antonio, Texas. And they opened up those ballots, and 100% of them were for Lyndon Johnson. But even more remarkable, all of the 220 voters had signed in alphabetical order. That's a true story. Read the Robert Caro books on Lyndon Johnson, a fabulous book, especially about the 48 race. So my guess is the best the Republicans are probably going to get is to 50. And I think it's going to be tough to pull that inside straight and win all of those close races. I would think the most likely number for the Republicans is going to be 48 or 49. And that's what a lot of the analysts are now saying. They think it will be 48 or 49, but they wouldn't tell you which one or which two they can lose. If they get to 50, the Republicans still have a shot at gaining control of the Senate. The reason is you can have a party switch. Ben Nelson of Nebraska has to run in 2012, very Republican state. He is very unpopular for his vote on the health care bill. He might see the wisdom of sort of going with the tide and positioning himself to even get a better committee assignment in 2011 by becoming a Republican The second is Joe Lieberman. Lieberman ran in 2006 as a Democrat, lost the primary, ran as an independent, basically got independent votes and Republican votes. The Republican candidate stayed in the race, but got about 8%. And Lieberman won. Now he's got to run again. Are the Democrats going to nominate Lieberman, even though he's caucused with him? I got my doubts. I mean, they think he's just too far to the right, the Democratic Party in Connecticut. So will he run as an independent again? Does he run as a Republican? Does he run as an independent but caucus with the Republicans starting in January? You know, these things are all possibilities. Okay, that gives you a little bit of background on the elections. I don't know how we're doing on time, but I want to get to Israel and consequences and so on. What time is it? I see you're all gripped, so that's good.
Can you talk about the governorships, because this is a
Yeah.
census year, and all the gerrymandering, the
Sure.
governorships are probably more important
Yeah.
this year than
Let me talk about that quickly, and then I'll
Okay.
get to Israel stuff. I think the Republicans are going to do pretty well. They were at 22 governorships after the 2008 elections. Then they picked up Virginia and New Jersey to get to 24. Most people think they're going to pick up a net 6 to 8 governorships this year to get to 30 or 32. Now, some of them, do you really care whether they win Vermont or Rhode Island? You know, some of these states only have one congressional.
or they're losing.
Or Hawaii, the Republicans are probably going to lose the governorship in Hawaii. Where the Republicans look like they're doing best is in the Midwest, which is a region which usually is where you have the closest presidential elections. The Republicans right now are positioned to win the governorships in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, Wisconsin. These are all states the Democrats now control the governorships. Now, some of these races are not locked up and put away. Pennsylvania is about 5 points. Illinois is about the same. Some of those could, late swings could move it the other direction. But those are very good things because you get close presidential races in those states. It's nice to have a governor from your own party in charge. The second is the states that are going to, and a lot of those states are going to lose seats, by the way, in the census, like New York State. Andrew Cuomo is going to be governor of New York State, though the best candidate in that race, I don't know if you saw the tape, is the rent's too damn high candidate. Probably the best 1-minute video the entire election. You must, really should Google that if you haven't already. New York State's going to lose a bunch of seats. Republicans only have 2 House seats out of 29 in New York. They may pick up 2 or 3 this time. So if they get squeezed by 1 in New York, not the worst crisis in the history of the world. The states that matter are Florida, Georgia, Texas. Right? These 3 states are all going to be adding significant seats. Somebody told me today that Georgia now has 10 million people, which is why they won the trivia quiz on my latest Israelist report for the largest state that's never had a Division I college team win the NCAA basketball championship, which is Georgia. But now with UGA 8, Georgia may be inspired to take that next step. But from what I've seen and from what Arit and Chuck have told me, Thiel is running somewhere between 5 and 10 points ahead in most surveys. It looks pretty good. Texas is more competitive than Texas normally is. The Democrats probably nominated their strongest candidate, Mark White. The Republican candidate had a very contentious primary against Kay Bailey Hutchison. The Republicans are going to win that race, but they're not going to win by 20 points. This is a state where McCain beat Obama by 12%. The Republicans, in a much better year for Republicans, they'll win the governor's race by less this year. So that's an indication of a competitive race.